Hey guys, it's Captain Harris, here to give our thoughts on the new Iron Maiden film, Burning Ambition.
Wow, we've finally seen it.
Yeah, so as some of you will know, we did a vlog, and initially I was going to put a review at the end of the vlog, but knowing how we are, I'm always like, oh, we'll just talk for like 10 or 15 minutes, and then I look at the little timer at the top of the video, and we've been talking for like 50 minutes, so I thought, own video. It could be its own video, and
Plus, it gives us a chance to absorb it a little bit more.
yeah.
And also read, like, what some people think about it and everything before we talk
Discuss
about
with friends a bit who saw it.
it. Yeah, and I mean, before we even talk about the movie, we have to kind of talk about the run-up to the movie and the big flash thing they did with the premiere.
Yeah.
Where it was a lot more kind of extravagant than I thought it would be.
Oh, yeah.
Where, I mean, you got some absolute classic photos with, Blaze being there. You got 4 of the Fab Five showed up, conveniently leaving out Steve Harris, the main guy. But we had Nico, Bruce, Dave, and Adrian there.
No Yannick either, but...
And they all were kind of, getting bombarded with short interviews that we've seen pop up on social media and everything. And they're getting asked all kinds of questions like, what do you think of the film? Oh, what's your favorite Maiden song?
Yeah.
And, a bunch of fun stuff like that. But again, the legendary photo with Eddie and Blaze in the middle is just so cool, and I think that'll be remembered for a long time. So the movie itself, obviously we went with Logan, and we had a whale of a time.
Yeah, it was quite a full theater, actually, before... Maybe an hour or two before we went in, I checked, and I think 54 tickets, including us, had sold, and I'm sure that some more people, just walked up and got tickets there, so... It was a pretty full theater for us. It was fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's as soon as we walked into Disney Springs, we started seeing a couple of Maiden shirts, and then, you go into the lobby of the AMC, and there's more Maiden shirts, and it's... we got recognized even before the movie.
Yeah, somebody walked up to James and was like, you were in the trailer.
That's right, yeah.
So,
and we sit down, we got our popcorn and our snacks, and...
Unfortunately, no posters in the entire place. Like, I thought that was kind of crazy. Like, I even went to our more local theater that was showing it. No posters there. No posters at the AMC at, like, a Disney property. I was so, like, jealous of everybody posting their photos next to the poster. And I'm like, damn, we don't have any, like, cool photo ops for this movie.
No, so, unfortunately, well, it seemed like they were doing, like, a big... They were really pushing, like, The Devil Wears Prada 2, so...
Yeah, but we walked through the whole place and there was posters everywhere. But
yeah.
I digress.
So, the intro of the film, and I just remember, obviously we're not going to be able to remember every detail. We've seen it one time
Yeah.
with a bunch of giddy friends all around us laughing the whole time. So,
I know, unfortunately, I missed quite a few parts because, like, we would laugh at things and then, like, obviously we would, like, start elbowing each other when they showed up. So I unfortunately did kind of feel like I missed a few things and would like to see it again, but gonna have to wait for that. Not yet announced, but leaked.
So as usual, we'll probably get some things wrong. We may say something that's like, oh, actually, they did cover that, but we were locked in. And the intro, we were like kind of looking at each other with that ball of limbs.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know what it was supposed to represent, like, if that was supposed to be us, the fans.
Is this us?
Or if that was, like, the band, or was it all the Eddies? Because it was, like, an animated thing. I didn't know if, like, maybe it was animated to be like, oh, this is Eddie and all his incarnations coming to Earth. I don't know.
I don't think that's what...
I don't know. I was just thinking of all the things that it could be, but I thought...
Well, it shot down like a bomb.
Yeah, into England.
Right. So all the I don't know. I don't know what it's supposed to mean.
Artists...
But, it kind of, and again, it's like, we kind of knew what to expect with, and I won't even say that because we were in it, like, we would assume based on what has been said about publicly, about the film, that this is a film covering the history of the band.
Yeah.
So we didn't really necessarily expect a lot of new information. Of course, we would like more new information or new footage and stuff, and I feel like they did put some stuff in there that I hadn't seen before, or at least, I don't think anybody except for, like, major Maiden historian types have actually seen every piece of media and every interview that's ever been done with them, but...
And I do feel like being involved with a little tiny piece of the filming process did give us some insight to, like, temper any, like, stupid high expectations for this film. Because, like, obviously we knew some of the questions they were asking, therefore, like, we kind of had an idea of what topics would be in the film.
Yeah, like, we knew that they were going to talk about Blaze and Paul. And...
We knew ahead of time that there would be Eddie animations. At that time, like I said, it was very early 2024, and, like, you know, obviously I didn't think anything of AI then, but then as we got closer and, like, the Bandit used it, I'm like, I wonder if that's gonna be a thing. Thankfully it wasn't. I mentioned in the vlog we did that it seems to be the same animation studio that did the Aces High video, and comment below, but I'm not sure because obviously we only saw it for like a little bit of time, but I feel like the pyramid model in the Power Slave part was the same as the one that's on the screen for the tour.
Probably, yeah.
And then we also knew that the band would only be doing audio interviews and not video interviews, which is disappointing for some, but I mean, Steve kind of explained that at the beginning of the film as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I understand, and I do get it from the creative standpoint of, like, you know, they're telling a story across their career, so it kind of allows you to, you know, imagine their voices speaking. You're imagining them at that point of time.
Yeah, and it was kind of nice, especially, and I think probably for both sides of fans, even the older fans that were there, you know, back in the day, and even newer fans. It's, you know, we've had them as older for so long now that, like, you kind of forget, and, like, obviously we didn't live the 80s, so it's like to kind of live in that world for a couple hours where it was mostly like them much younger and going through like their first, you know, their rise to power. It was because I was honestly, when I first learned that it was just going to be interviews that were not on video, like I was a little bit disappointed in that. But now that I see what they were going for, like it makes sense. Like I would rather see the stuff from the 80s as they're talking about the 80s and see the era they're talking about. But moving, you know, straight into it, everything is condensed into the shortest possible thing you could do, because at the end of the day, this is kind of like if you were to take all of their professionally released media, like all the movies and live releases and everything, and condense it into one story that goes through their entire career, so nothing gets a lot of time.
I saw a few people on the forum talking about this, and I thought that it was a good idea that this should maybe have been like a multi-part series on a streaming service, because you could tell, so like I feel like the way they did it would have been interesting, more in depth, with like, you know, maybe talking about the different eras or the albums and stuff.
Or like
and
17 hour long episodes about the 17 album eras.
Yeah, that's what I commented to somebody on the last video we did. I believe they mentioned the same thing with like it should be a series, and it's like, yeah, one episode for each album. You know, there's a bunch of fans out there that would yap about it. So
yeah. So they go, you know, obviously right into the early days, and I know a lot of people have problems with like, oh, they didn't mention this person or this person, but like knowing how condensed it must be to make this movie, like I understand the choices of like, we're clearly not going to go through the dozen people that Steve went through in the 70s. Like it doesn't really matter for a broader audience who want to hear the story of the band.
I do feel it was a little weird to not mention Dennis Stratton.
That was the one where he was the only one that's on record that didn't get a mention.
I just found it weird, like, oh, they covered like, you know, Paul leaving and Bruce coming in, and then Clive leaving and Nico coming in, and Adrian leaving.
It was kind of framed as like, and Adrian was already there.
Right.
Like, there was no Adrian coming into the band.
It did feel a little bit strange that like everybody else got their story of how this person left and this person came in, but there was no like, oh, and Dennis left and Adrian came in. It was just like there was no Dennis.
It was just straight into,
unless I missed it, of course.
No, I don't think there was any mention of Dennis, but it basically just covered it by like, it was that clip of Dave and Adrian, or that, you know, picture of Dave and Adrian. They're just like, oh, we've been friends since we were kids. So, and then it's like, what about Dennis? But it is what it is. Early days covered pretty quickly. Yeah. You know, we run through the first album.
And to be fair, we have the early days DVD that, you know, for us diehards basically digs into all of that.
there's not much new we're gonna learn from this movie, unfortunately. But it's, again, kind of expected.
Well, my thing is this is made by Universal. This is an outside party. They were given access to the band's archives and stuff. You know, what is there that we don't know about the band that the band is going to give to an outside company to put in a documentary? You know, like,
exactly.
we're in the case that it was made, like, we were bound to know.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I had a family member come along to the movie, and I guarantee they didn't know most of what was said in that film, because they're just, like, you know, casually like heavy metal. They're where I got my taste in music from as a child, and, like, they just like the music, so they're like, yeah, I'll come along, I'll see the movie, and I guarantee most all of that was new to them.
Because as hard as it is to believe, for us, when I say us, I don't mean us, I mean us. Most fans don't care as deeply as we do, so they're gonna get more of an outline. But the outline is legendary.
Yeah.
So, Paul, we get to Paul.
Yeah.
Paul's in, and again, people are like, even that line was in the trailer. Paul was the first singer of the band, and it's like, did they just like cut that up and it was like somebody else was like, Paul Day was the first, or like they just cut out the word Day. They're like, Paul was the first singer of the band. But as far as publicly and in the heavy metal world, like, Paul Di'Anno is always going to be known as Maiden's first singer. It's just the way it goes when you put albums out. Like, it's when you go public with your band. Like,
that's how
this is the first lineup.
It's just how the general audience is going to see it. Like, I know that. Oh yeah, we have the early days. We know all that stuff. We know, like, all the different lineups they went through in the 70s, but, like, anybody who's just like, yep, I just listened to Iron Maiden amongst other things, they're gonna be like, yeah, Paul Di'Anno was the first singer.
Yeah, Paul Di'Anno, first 2 albums. And it goes through pretty quick. You know, it's the story we all know of, you know, he just really wasn't taking care of himself, and he had to go. It just wasn't in the cards to keep him around. And so it kind of moves very quickly into Bruce coming in, and they bring him in just like in the trailer with him picking up the phone.
Yeah.
And it basically is like, it's like, Paul was the first singer. He had to go. Bruce is here. We're the biggest band in the world now. And then it's like a lot of live footage. Like, I remember it kept going back to like Beast Over Hammersmith and playing the Murders in the Rue Morgue. It kept going back to that, and it even like played a couple of those clips over and over again. We saw it a couple times, but
and I know we know the story, but I just loved hearing them tell it again, of like Steve being like, he has to go because he wanted to be up front on the stage when Steve did. Rod's like, he's staying.
And it ran through briefly, like the Steve and Rod going to see Samson play at Reading, and on that little meeting that Rod and Bruce had about like, oh, you know, you want to audition, and Bruce is like, well, you know, if I'm going to audition, I'm going to get the job. So. Yeah,
and I had never actually heard the Rod setting up a line of coke for Bruce, and Bruce saying,
no, see, that was new. That was new information.
And he was like, oh, all right, more for me.
Yeah, and I mean, and we'll talk a bit more about the vibe as we go through, but there was a lot of funny moments. There was a lot of laughs.
Yeah.
And basically, as soon as we get through, like, Number of the Beast is out, and they're, you know, they soar to heavy metal, you know, they're icons. It goes quickly through Clive and just kind of frames it as, oh, you know, he just kind of wasn't happy, wasn't really gelling.
Yeah.
And it's very vague. It's just a lot of the comings and goings of members with Maiden is vague, and it's gonna be kept that way. So it's kind of like it was showing like Clive behind his drum kit, like looking a bit sad, even though obviously he's playing a show. It's probably fine.
They did that a lot through the film, where they used like photos and described what they must be feeling.
Like that, like in the trailer when they were acting like, oh, this is the bad times, and it's that clip of Bruce is like Bruce in his box. It's like they're just recording a matter of life and death.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so Clive goes, and they bring Nico in. I love the way they bring Nico in. To the story. Is that it's from Sooty, right? Yeah, it's him on the drum kit with a big smile on his face, as always. And he's so charismatic, like straight from the get-go. And it seems like they were rushing to get to the Fab Five.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really clarify like on what album Nico comes in on or anything. It's just like, oh, Clive's out, Nico's in, and then it's like, and then the 80s were a roller coaster.
I mean, it barely touched on any album, to be quite honest.
Not really any of them.
It was mostly just like what they went through as a band and how they've impacted the fan base, but really none of the albums really got like
the biggest thing maybe specifically is just talking about Satanic Panic after Number of the Beast
but
came
that's
out.
not really talking much about Number of the Beast. That's the impact that they had on the world.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember anything about Peace of Mind.
No.
I don't really remember anything about Power Slave other than them. Obviously, they had a lot of footage of them on tour for the Power Slave era.
Yeah, and the Behind the Iron Curtain thing was during the Power Slave tour.
And when they talked about songs, they talked about Mariner quite a bit and the meaning of that. And we're more of a highbrow band. You know, we cover literature, and I like that that clip of Bruce when he's talking about like, oh, well, every band talks about, going out and getting women and doing drugs. And
it's more fun doing that.
It's more fun doing it, listening to a song about it. I don't know how much sense that actually makes, but it sounds great. So once we're in the 80s, it just it's kind of treated as just one chunk of time where it's like, there's no really pinpointing what we're talking about. It seems like they're talking about Number of the Beast through Seventh Son.
Yeah.
As just like...
And just how hard they were touring in those years. Like, Bruce was mentioning, like, I looked at the schedule, and it was 7 days in a row and 1 day off. And then there was 6 days in a row with 1 day off. And then how you can't tune your voice like you can an instrument. Like, if it's messed up, it's messed up. There's nothing you can do about it. Yeah,
so it started to kind of get into Bruce losing his mind on tour. And really, I'm sure they all were. But Bruce... And I was kind of surprised that they didn't even talk about Bruce's fencing or anything, because I remember he was doing a lot of fencing to kind of counteract, just to kind of forget about the Maiden tours, while he was on tour. Some of the specific moments, brought up again, like Behind the Iron Curtain, and that was a bit more of a somber moment of a historic moment of a heavy metal band being able to go behind the Iron Curtain and performing for a very repressed population under totalitarianism.
Well, I feel like that part of the film was kind of supposed to what it was meant to be like in the beginning, because I know Steve had mentioned in his interview initially it was supposed to be about the fans, and then they changed it a bit, they changed their minds, and this film was supposed to come out last year, but it came out it was fall last year, now it's come out this year, so I'm wondering if that narrative change is what changed that. But I really liked the Behind the Iron Curtain stuff, because I felt the fans who had been impacted by governments and wars and stuff like that, I felt like they had the best contributions to the film, because it really shows how much this band means in troubled times for these people, and how much it must have meant to have the band come with a full production during a time like that, and what a release it must have been.
Because I feel even, I'm not sure of the timing of these segments, but I think it was maybe right after that they talked about, Fear of the Dark, and the Lebanese fan that had a special connection to Fear of the Dark. And it just kind of reminds us all that, there's albums out there, whether it's Maiden or not, somebody is deeply connected to so many releases, even what you consider the worst stuff, somebody is very connected to it,
and talking about how difficult it was to just get albums and stuff like that in these places, you had to know somebody who just had it and could let you listen to it, and then the woman from Lebanon just saying give me the heaviest thing you've got, and
and they add a lot of levity to it, like going to Poland and they show that hilarious clip of that, I want to play heavy metal.
That's the thing, is I know that a lot of people are oh, this is all clips and it's all nothing we haven't learned. And I will give you that, like, you know, it would have been nice to have some new stuff, but, like, I can't say that I don't go back multiple times to watch, like, those compilation videos of, like, oh, Nico's best moments or best Iron Maiden moments, and, you know, you've seen them, but you still laugh along, so, like, when that happened at the theater, like, everybody busted out laughing. Like, we've all seen that clip so many times, but it's still funny.
And everybody in the place laughed.
And I'm surprised that they didn't, like, touch on that after. Like, I thought that's where they were going with it, was like, oh, you can't play heavy metal with synthesizers, and then they go into it. And they did on this next album somewhere in time.
Yeah, it is kind of shocking that they didn't use it. You know, I just don't know if they didn't know, because, you know, maybe they didn't know that they used synthesizers on the next album. But, because, again, it's not made by Maiden. But it is a missed opportunity to be like, and then 1986, you know, but... They also touched on, you know, again, with the levity, them playing Smoke on the Water with that wedding.
Oh, yeah.
Which is hilarious.
I love those clips.
Hilarious. And I kind of wish that they did their own segment of, like, funny moments where it was, like, they talk about that. And then also that time I think it was on Top of the Pops or whatever, where they had to lip sync to Wasted Years, and they just made a total joke of it, and that I feel like that would have gone over well too. There's
so much that could have been in this film, but like, you know, where's the time? That's why I was like, maybe a series would have been a good idea, you know?
Yeah, but we talk about, or they don't talk about Somewhere in Time or Seventh Son at all. I mean, they barely show anything. There's a couple of clips of them playing the Made in England show, I noticed, but no talking of any impacts of albums or anything like that. It just kind of, it's like the roller coaster of the 80s and Bruce's kind of losing of his mind, represented by that animation of Peace of Mind Eddie.
It was Adrian leaving first.
Oh, you're right. Well, was it? I mean, I can't remember if it was just him, like, talking about the 80s and the golden cage.
Well,
or...
yeah, but I mean, like, Adrian was talking about, like, how, you know, I didn't have any ideas for this album.
Yeah, they actually said the words, "No Prayer for the Dying." Amazing. Amazing. That's as good as it's going to get.
More than you'll get on the tour.
And I actually did find this kind of interesting. There was a couple things. Because when, you know, we all know that Adrian leaving has always been left kind of up to our imagination anyway, of like what really went down, what were the arguments, and of course we'd all love to know. But we're not going to get that. So what happens is Adrian gives us the idea that, oh, we're doing this album, and Adrian had writer's block.
Yeah.
And so he couldn't really think of any good material for this album. But it kind of makes me think, like, well, what kind of album were they making when he had writer's block? Like, is it he had other ideas, but the band was like, no, we're gonna be AC/DC for a while, and do, like, I don't even know what to call it, back to basics. And Adrian just didn't really vibe with that, and it's like, well, I have no ideas that would fit that vibe, but that's just speculation. I don't know what parameters they were working under to write songs then, but it seemed like the band was heading into a back to basics era, and maybe I just don't think Adrian messed with that idea at all. And it's just kind of left up to, like, oh, Adrian left, but not saying how or why, or, you know, which moves into Yannick coming in. And I think that was the first time Yannick spoke in the film, possibly. And something I hadn't heard before is he mentions that he came in to the studio when they were recording No Prayer to audition or something, and they told him to just plug into Adrian's gear, and he was like, oh, I don't want to touch Adrian's gear or anything, and they're just like, it doesn't matter, he's gone, he's off. And it's like, damn it, and Yannick walked into a heated era of the band. I just can't imagine what it was like for him. And then that hilarious clip, which I have never seen, of them being asked about the release of No Prayer, and they're asked something along the lines of, oh, what should fans expect from No Prayer for the Dying? And they're all just like looking at each other like, who's going to answer? They don't look confident at all. And they all eventually just look at Yannick.
And then camera just like pans over to him like comically.
To Yannick.
The whole theater just busted out laughing.
And Yannick's just like, yeah, it's going to be great. They're just like, if anybody doesn't like it, they'll just blame it on Yannick.
Oh.
And they did. No, just kidding. It pretty much moves pretty quickly through that, the 2-album 90s era. It doesn't really talk about the songs of No Prayer or Fear of the Dark. It gets to Bruce talking about leaving pretty quickly.
And yeah, as you were about to bring up, the, like, Eddie animation that they used to, like, signify Bruce's going insane, having to do all this touring, I felt like that lasted a little bit too long.
Like maybe 5 seconds too long.
And we were just sitting there just like, is this gonna
Like, they could have just played that while he was speaking.
Yeah, like, I don't know, just like him struggling a bit, like, back and forth, and then he breaks free of his chains.
Right.
I'm gonna write different music. And then what did it pull up? What song was that?
Oh, I don't know.
I can't remember.
One of Bruce's early solo songs.
I think it was I've been down in the funky house. Whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's funky house.
It's funky house.
Is it?
No, I don't know. I like to think it's funky house.
I'm not that familiar with those.
But they, and this is where Nico is spitting fire at Bruce. I mean, Nico is just so, he can't not be honest, kind of similar to the way we are on this channel.
His parts were my favorite in the documentary.
Oh,
like,
highlight.
Like, even when he's just, like, angry, like, he'll laugh after he says what he's all pissed off about, and then it just makes you laugh.
Like, he'll say something really, like, vicious, and then just laugh, and we're all just like, ha ha ha.
It is funny.
It is funny, and he was
talking about having to perform in front of Bruce's sorry ass every night. And
so
he was like cussing a lot too. I'm like, hell yeah, like, you're letting it all out.
He's held on to that passion this many decades later. Like, he still, like, hasn't fully accepted Bruce's.
It just shows how much he cares. Well, I mean, he explained that with, like, when Bruce came back, he put his arm around him. He's like, I'm not taking back the things that I said, but, you know, I'm glad you're back.
Yeah.
And he's like, I wouldn't have it any other way. And it's like, yeah, you do still feel that way about that era, and you're just glad to move on from it.
Yeah, well, Nico's good at, like, he puts his frustrations out there, and then he ends it with a bit of levity. Like, he said how he told, Bruce when he came back, oh, I haven't forgiven you for the way you acted back then, but, and I don't know how we're going to move on from that. And Bruce's response to Nico was something along the lines of, oh, I wouldn't have it any other way, but I love you, Nick. And we're all just like, oh, we love them.
Yeah. I did feel like, they had lots of musical segments where, like, the music was playing for quite a while. I do feel like some of those went on a little bit longer than they should have. Like, I feel like it was necessary to have the musical bits, but I feel like if they got cut down just a little bit, or, like, maybe a couple more were taken out, we could have had a bit more story in there.
Yeah, or, like, even just one more highlight could have been fit in.
Yeah.
But it did sometimes felt a bit excessive, especially when it's basically playing a lot of that stuff while they're talking anyway. So to have sections of just, live footage, it feels like just kind of a waste of time. Like, we could have saved a bit of it for some different stuff. But, that's just nitpicking, really.
Yeah, but it's just like, in terms of, like, people thinking that there wasn't enough, material in there. It's like, yeah, I do think that there was ways that they could have made room for some more. But, it's a film, and Malcolm Venville's an artist of his own right in filmmaking, and he had his own vision for it, and I guess that's just, how the vision was.
Yeah. Which leads into the Blaze era, where, of course, Steve talks about, oh, he's got 500 tapes to look through to find the right singer, because they took time to find a singer, and Steve ended up picking Blaze. And it was handled with the utmost respect. Yeah. I mean, it couldn't have been more respectful to Blaze.
Like, there's no, like, treating him negatively or anything. It was just like, it explained at the time that just, like, metal was kind of going through a rough period with grunge and stuff anyways. And they had asked some of those grunge bands to, like, open for them, and they said, nah, you're too old. Remember that bit?
That's right. It was Nirvana.
Yeah.
They asked Nirvana to open for them on a tour. They said, no, you're too old, which is awesome. But it was handled nicely, but it went over like it kind of blamed the entire era on the 90s not being kind to metal.
Yeah.
But it didn't touch on the fact that, and also most of the fans were not really vibing with the Blaze albums.
Yeah.
It didn't really talk about that.
No.
Because now they are remembered much more fondly. And I see why, because, and this goes for every album, but there is iconic stuff on every single album.
Yeah, and as time goes on, you can find things to appreciate, especially if, like, say you went through the whole 80s and you got all those fantastic albums, and then you get Fear of the Dark, no Prayer for the Dying, not that great. Fear of the Dark, a bit better. And then you get X Factor and Virtual 11. It's like, well, when you put X Factor and Virtual 11 up to what was released 10 years prior to that, like, I don't know that I would have been super into it either. But going back to that material when you now have stuff like, from Brave New World on, it's like, I can find things to appreciate on. I just don't know that if I was around at the time, if I would be able to be like, this is perfectly fine.
Well, it's almost like it's hindsight's 2020 when it's like when you can look back on it and you know everything that happened afterwards.
Yeah.
But when you're living in the moment and you don't really know what's going on or what the future holds, it is very kind of shocking. It's a shocking change to the band and how they sound and what kind of stuff they're writing.
I mean, even some fans felt that way when Paul left. Like, Kenneth was up there and his part saying, like, oh no, my band is dead when Paul left.
Yeah.
Because that's what they knew at the time, was just like, Paul Di'Anno is the voice of Iron Maiden.
Something like, 50% of fans hated, the introduction of Bruce and Paul leaving. But they didn't treat Blaze in that way. Like, they didn't say anything along the lines of, like, oh, the fans didn't like Blaze. No. Which I think is good. You know, it's because we all kind of know that
he's faced abuse from fans.
Yeah, we all know, because how do you fill the shoes of Bruce Dickinson? It's impossible. And that was kind of represented with the clip they used of me, where they're using that animation of Eddie underground.
Yeah.
And I said something along the lines of like, and then they had to claw back, their whatever I said. And they used like Eddie's hand coming through to represent like Bruce coming back. I don't even really know how I feel about using that line there.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, if they were clawing their way back to, the pinnacle of their success, like, I feel like you would be clawing it with Blaze. And if you climbed the summit again with Blaze and proved yourself, but it was more along the lines of, and then we just did what we did before and got the old guys back, and then we were successful again. But, it wasn't like we really had to drag ourselves out of this. But
yeah, and I liked Nico's story about like being like, hang on, there's 6 of us now. Who's taking a pay cut?
Yeah, pointing at Rod like, you're gonna cut your commission. But
yeah, no, I loved all Nico's parts. They were just so honest and fun and like.
All of his stories, it just sounds like they just happened, but they were decades ago. And they did mention, during the Blaze era, in fact, Chris was on there, and he said, that he saw Maiden on the X Factor tour, and it was like 1,000, 1,500 person venue in the States. And Rod had a clip in there that explained that, like, they were still fairly popular in Europe, but they fell off pretty hardcore in the U.S.
Yeah.
But he said that, we did okay in Europe, and then it was kind of framed in a way that I didn't expect, where it was kind of framed like, and then Bruce's solo career wasn't going the way that he expected.
Yeah.
And so they reconvened, but I'm not really sure how that really went down, because again, that's all kind of left up to vagueness as well, because obviously musically, I think Bruce was hitting his absolute pinnacle kind of at that time.
Yeah, with the solo works.
Because they said, I think it was Rod that said, Bruce wanted to play big shows again. So I'm wondering, I bet that's true too, but I think both sides of the aisle wanted to play big shows again and be Iron Maiden again, like what they did in the 80s. But it was kind of odd to say that Bruce, like, framing it as Bruce really wanted to come back, because we've always taken it from Bruce as like, he got a call and his Bruce Dickinson band was like, you have to do it. You have to go back. So it sounded like he had a decision to make to go back. So I think he was probably asked to come back is more likely, but it was framed as if he wanted to come back to be in a bigger band again.
Yeah.
So Bruce is back. They play like a lot of Rock and Rio stuff to kind of represent, Brave New World era. The band's kind of relaunched and is super successful again. And it says, again, it used a clip of myself kind of, they used what I said about when they came back, they made albums that were like, they were just as good as what they did in the 80s, just in a completely different way.
And they use that to just segue.
Yeah, while I was saying that, they were just showing, like, Dance of Death, Final Frontier, Matter of Life and Death, like, as if, like, okay, we covered all these albums. Bruce's Cancer.
Yeah. Stuff like that period was just, like, nothing and cancer.
It goes from Rock and Rio to Bruce's Cancer. Yeah. And I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't get some more stuff of, like, the 2000s era, like, there's just so much stuff there. I wish they would have at least covered, like, Matter of Life and Death and, we decided to do something controversial, which is play an entirely new album front to back, and it was very risky, but we're glad we did it.
Well, I feel like all of us are going to be a little disappointed in any way. Like, some people would want to hear more about, like, Peace of Mind through Seventh Son.
They didn't even get that.
Exactly, and some of us want to hear more about, like, the post-reunion era, and I feel like because you know so much and you just study this band, like, I feel like the movie was more of like a field guide to Iron Maiden than like the encyclopedia that we would want. Because
we're all sitting there like, why wouldn't they talk about that? But
yeah,
because it's a small detail probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, it talks about Bruce's cancer and it actually brought me back to that time period, because now we're talking about a time where we were like huge fans, seeing them, and I remember like 2015 when they took that year off, and it really was up in the air of like, is he gonna be okay?
Yeah, I mean, just hearing that news, I know that they only let the public know after he finished treatment, but like it was pretty scary.
But even after that, like, even though I think we were all assuming that, like, yeah, he's going to be okay, but there was also that feeling of, like, is he going to be able to sing?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't fully catch my part because we all started screaming when our group photo popped up on the screen, but I know I started with, like, we were at the first night of the Book of Souls tour. We were all just, like, palpably nervous about, like, is he going to do it? And it was just, like, super triumphant that he did it. Like,
I had forgotten how important that era was of them coming back.
Yeah.
After Bruce's cancer, and the Book of Souls tour was just absolutely iconic, one of their best tours ever, and it was very nostalgic, really, because I remember being very worried at the time that Maiden was going to be done because of that problem. But there's so many triumphant moments in their history that it's like, there's problems and they come back, and it was cool to relive kind of all of them put together.
Yeah,
and and then it really hits you in the feels with, it runs through Nico's retirement, which, again, it goes kind of from Book of Souls, and now we're at 2024, Nico's retirement, and it's showing the clips of him, like, backstage and taking the pictures with Steve and the guys before the last show, and him, doing his final bows, and it is. I would say it's hard to watch, not in a bad way, but it's hard not to tear up a little bit at watching them, because like I've been calling them the Fab Five, like, without, it's like the breaking of the fellowship. Like, and she said that to me yesterday. It was like, when Nico left, it was like the breaking of the fellowship. It's those five guys that did, the bulk of that 80s run, and like, it's just not the same without all of them. And we all know that. But
The movie just seemed to, like, the ending seemed a little bit, like, abrupt and rushed, and I think it's because of when this was all, like, filmed and all the...
Nico was still in the band.
Right, and even Paul was still alive. Like, he interviewed for the film. He was still alive at the time. He only died later that year. So 2024 is when all this stuff was recorded, and, like, they'd probably been planning this film for quite a while and had their own idea of how it was going to go, maybe how it was going to end, and then all this stuff has happened since with, like, Nico retiring and... all of that. So I just think that things happened both after they recorded, but before editing, that was like, okay, we gotta figure this out.
Because I was also very curious about how they end it, because how you end it is kind of how you put what the future might look like. And it it's already an awkward time to put something like this out with when we're facing an unknown year off, and then beyond that is like, who knows?
Yeah.
But it kind of just ended with it ended with like, oh, well, they're still triumphantly huge, and they showed, clips of the London Stadium show from 2025, and, shows the packed house. So it's clearly showing the vibe that, like, they're still the biggest heavy metal band.
Yeah.
And the thing that stuck out to me the most was, like, Steve kind of ended the "what does the future look like" question when he was like, well, what do you mean what we're going to do? We're going to tour, and then we're going to tour, and then we're going to tour, and then we're going to tour. I'm like, oh, okay. So no decisive future with that, like with a year off, but I would assume when they come back, they're going to tour, and then they're going to tour, and then they're going to tour. Yeah.
I don't know in what way, who with, but, like, I do obviously expect them to come back, barring any tragedy, but I don't know in what way to expect the return.
Because we've been having that discussion lately of, like, what band actually ends? What band that can play just doesn't play? Like, now that, and the one that I had in my mind was Rush, but they're back. Obviously Slayer has come back, and I mean, look at how many bands are still around that are much older than Maiden.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still see the Rolling Stones. You can still see Paul McCartney. It doesn't end. And I don't know how I feel about that with Iron Maiden. It's just like, you can almost see it, like, with Steve's push to just always tour and always tour. It's like, are people going to be replaced? And it's just going to kind of end up being like every other band. And I don't want it to go that way. But, and I know a lot of fans would argue that, well, it's better to have an Iron Maiden that's not, the purest and still be able to see them. But this is all just kind of personal feelings about the future and what kind of version of the band we will want to see. But we can definitely expect more touring.
Yeah. And back to the end of the film, I know that we all have our opinions on Gene Simmons and, how he is as a person, but that last line of his where he was doing the, like...
Yeah, and what happened to grunge.
What happened to grunge. The whole theater, I really liked that.
I was surprised to see a Gene Simmons line get a big reaction.
I know.
Because, to be honest, the rest of the celebrity interviews didn't add much, other than Javier.
Yeah, he
was his was great. I mean,
good. But he's an actor, too, so,
he's very well-spoken.
Good screen presence.
And his breakdown of, like, Run to the Hills, which is kind of seen as, like, one of their more, I don't know, like, I wouldn't say jokey songs, but it's
upbeat.
It's an upbeat song that's...
So you don't think about...
No, you don't think about how serious the content is of those lyrics, but the way he represents the lyrics, you can see, like, even in an upbeat, fun, not that complicated song like Run to the Hills, like, there is a very deep theme in there that you can dig into.
Yeah, and I know that I don't know his name. It's like something DePina from Hyrax. He interviewed for this film, and I loved his comment about like how the churches were burning records and stuff, and he's like, that just makes us want to listen to it more, dummies.
Exactly. Like, whenever the old people start interfering, it's like, okay, now it's really cool.
Like, it was the whole Satanic Panic thing. It was like, oh, well, it just makes you want to listen to it more. Like, you're just making it worse.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I need to hear anything from Scott Ian about Iron Maiden at this point. Like, I get he's a fan just like us, but it just seems like, Tom Morello, Scott Ian, they're always there.
And they always kind of say the same thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really add much other than, like at this point, is anybody shocked? Is anybody like, oh my god, Scott Ian's in it? Like, it just doesn't really add anything. I would rather see maybe some younger...
But there's so many musicians out there that have been inspired by Maiden that it would not be hard to find some just, like, newer or less used faces to put into the documentary.
Right, like Tobias Forge or somebody. Like, clearly is inspired... Like, everybody is inspired by Maiden. But I think having some younger, some more...
I know the Amon Mars guys all love it, and that would have been cool to see any of them.
Yeah, I mean, just... Again, current bands, I think, would have been a bit more interesting to hear what they have to say. 'Cause being a bit younger like us, they can they can,
Not that any of those
thing.
guys are any less fans.
No.
But it's just
We have seen it so many times.
They are in a lot, and it would be cool to get just a little bit of variety is all.
Oh, and Lars as well was in there. I don't remember anything.
No, nothing he said really stuck with me. I can't think of a single line.
No. And I really think the fan interviews were the bread and butter.
Yeah, my favorite ones were the people that came from the countries like obviously Poland had a very big part, Lebanon, Kosovo, just the ones that had to go through some real shit in their lives, talking about what Maiden meant to them going through all that. Because obviously we find Maiden and we just we love it and we love listening to it. But
we find value in Maiden for what seems like more trivial reasons than somebody like that connects to it because of their personal things they've gone through.
I believe it was a guy from Kosovo talking about how they found their own little community of people there through Iron Maiden, and I know
would distribute records.
That had to be so important, to have in those times.
Something to take your mind off what's going on.
I do think that they had the best of the fan interviews on there. What they had to say was what I really think was the spirit of what the film was really supposed to be,
and the spirit of Iron Maiden. And again, the Polish fans, they were so excited to have just a heavy metal band come, and it was Iron Maiden.
Yeah,
and
the clips of them trying to get onto the bus, they were insanely excited.
They bothered to go and deal with the militarization of that place, and
saying even the military guys by the end of the show
throwing their hats off and having a great time because they were that at that time
they're oppressed too.
But at that time, there was that feeling of we're coming towards the end of this current regime, and it's Iron Maiden was there to just kind of imprint yes, we're getting towards the end of this thing. So I think that's kind of what people remember that were there and saw them. As far as the animations go, I mean, some of them were pretty good. Some of them were a bit drawn out, you said.
I don't think it needed as many as it did. It wasn't my favorite art style, but I understand that they have certain budgets. Iron Maiden films aren't going to bring in a massive amount of money to the box office, and all you've got after that is maybe streaming and sales of the physical media. So you have a certain budget you're working with. So I understand it's not the highest quality. I would have liked it to look maybe a little more Derek Riggs-esque, but I know that it's hard to emulate somebody else's art style. But I feel the movie was lacking a bit in even much of a mention of Derek Riggs. I know they mentioned, Rod seeing some of his work on other albums and bringing in his portfolio and looking through and finding Eddie, but I do feel I wish there was a bit more of a Derek Riggs touch with artwork and maybe giving him some more props on
I mean, he should have been in it, really.
Yeah, because they talked about Eddie a lot. They're oh, what is Eddie? Oh, he's so cute. Yeah, I like that girl's comment.
Yeah. And same with I think they probably should have brought up Martin Birch.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't know. I don't think any of us know what Iron Maiden would be without Martin Birch and Derek Riggs.
Yeah.
Obviously they're phenomenal musicians and would have made amazing music no matter what. But it was, those two added so much.
I just feel there was mostly a focus on the trial and tribulations of the guys in the band rather than the creation of the music and how it all came to be.
It was very focused on the Fab Five and their, ascending the throne to heavy metal stardom. But as far as impact of this film, will it be remembered? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be remembered for those who went to the theater to see it, because that was what kind of made this special for us, is I don't know how I would have felt about it, just putting it on say it's on Netflix, just putting it on at home, but being in a room full of a bunch of like-minded people, people were talking after the movie about it.
Especially when you're seeing clips of have made you personally laugh when you're just sitting in front of your computer.
Everybody else is.
When you're on YouTube in 2007 watching funny Iron Maiden compilations, but to see all those clips and everybody laugh with you, it's oh, I'm not alone.
Yeah, it was.
In this.
I think that it was worth going out to seeing just for the community aspect alone, because I've never seen a Maiden film in theaters. I know Flight 666 came to theaters, but I was not old enough to go see, or not old enough, but really able to go just take myself to see that movie at the time, and this was my first opportunity to see anything Iron Maiden just, like, out in public in a film rather than just, like, just a live show. It's like, oh, we're going to see a film about the band. But,
And, of course, it has the added significance of, like, we're in it, and it's like...
Well, that was, like, a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
Exactly.
Like, the three of us, like, I would have been happy to just see, like, even one of the guys make it into the film, let alone all three. So the three of us all got to just, like, go and have this, like, weird niche once-in-a-lifetime thing where we're elbowing each other, like, oh, there's James again, oh, and you're on the screen, like, So that was special for us, but I really do, like I said, I think that the best fan interviews were the ones from those countries that were impacted by governments and wars and things like that.
Yeah, it shows the value of a band like Iron Maiden when you're in bad times.
But I don't think this film was ever going to please fully most people because, like, there's people out there that are like, I don't want to hear anything from fans. I just want to hear about the band's history. And then there's people that are like, I would have liked to heard less about the history we already know all about and hear more from what the community has to say. And then they didn't cover this enough, they didn't cover that enough, so it's like it's just not long enough to please in every way for everyone.
No, I mean it's the Iron Maiden essentials. It's the culmination of, like I said, every release they've put out before. It's just like the best of compilation. Somebody went and put all that stuff together and had some fan input on what it means to us. And I really appreciate being effort involved as well. We were able to add something to that project. And I just think that's so cool that a bunch of fans did.
And I really hope that, like, on the physical release, that there's maybe some bonus features that, like, maybe cover a few more topics or just, like, have a bit more of, like, the band or fan interviews that didn't make it, where it's just, like, there's, like, sections you can go through and, like, just, like, a bit about Peace of Mind,
I would love that.
Like, and, I mean, they tend to do that kind of stuff for physical media, so you never know. Like, I just think it would be nice because the film was so short. And I know they have so many hours of content they filmed and recorded for this that, like, even, like, they wouldn't have to put in, like, the songs and the Eddie animations. It could just be, like, the interviews and questions about certain things.
I'm trying to look at it from a point of view of, like, this isn't here to teach hardcore fans more about Iron Maiden. This is a celebration of Iron Maiden, and we can all go and enjoy what this band has brought to us over the years, and we can all sit in a theater together and just enjoy it. Just enjoy Iron Maiden, and it really does hit you in the feels many times. You will laugh, you will shed a tear, maybe. It's a special thing to go and enjoy such a niche subject with a big group of people, and I think that's what you should focus on. And
I feel like we did. I know it was like almost 20 years ago now, but we did get, like, that look into the band's lives that, like, this is never before seen. Like, Flight 666 was stuff that we had never before seen. Like,
even the little bonus features on Rock and Rio and Death on the Road had a documentary as well.
Like, I feel like it's very hard today to be able to get that information and be able to use it, especially as a third party. Like, to just, like, oh, here's a bunch of information the fans have never heard, and we're going to let you use it for your documentary.
Yeah.
That they're willing to tell people at that. I don't know how much of that there is at this point that they are willing to let the fans know about, and they would want to probably use it for their own,
whatever their future holds.
Yeah, whatever the future holds, I would assume that they want to save it for themselves. So, just...
I mean, this probably, more than anything, just lit a fire under Steve to be like, I want to do a documentary now. It's going to be done by me and me alone.
That's what they can do in 2027.
There you go,
He
Steve.
can do the editing.
He can do it, and we will go and watch that too.
He can voice all the band members.
and then I met Steve, and he was the nicest man I've ever met. I think we're coming to the end.
Yeah, see, we've been yapping for an hour. I told you. This would have never fit on the end of the vlog.
It always happens. We can talk about Maiden forever, even though it's just stuff that we all know.
Yeah. But, I know that, like, most people just do their, like, 10-minute reviews. Like, I rate it as this, and I like this and not this. But, like, I just can't help myself. I just have to rake over the details.
Yeah. And, I mean, I'm not going to give it a rating. It just doesn't really feel right to.
I will. I think that it met the 7 out of 10 that I assumed it would be. Just for myself. Like, I know I'm biased as, like, oh, I had friends in it, and, for me, it was a 7 out of 10. Like, all the other content they've had, like Flight 666, Early Days, and Vivo, like, that's all just so good. It's so good, and it's so hard to match, but, this is also just a Universal film, so... And 7 out of 10 doesn't mean it's bad by any means, it's just like, it was a nice, fun evening out with our friends, with a bunch of other Maiden fans, and it was fun to just laugh and share in the camaraderie.
Exactly. I think I'll join you there. I'll give it a 7.2.
Ooh, you gotta beat me.
Yeah, just a little higher.
So competitive. Oh yeah, I asked Logan if he would like to film his thoughts to add onto this video. Unfortunately, he was too busy this weekend and didn't have time, so he sent over just a little bit that I can read, because, I feel it's important that he shares his opinions too, because he was just as involved with, like, getting to be interviewed and going to see it with us and everything. So Logan says, my main take was, it's fine for the general population, but as an actual film, I found the narrative lacking. What did it want to say? Was it about the fans? Was it about the triumph of Maiden? The question of why isn't answered other than, this is cool. Like a Fast and Furious movie. It's Maiden on a big screen. That's enough, right? And I did feel the pacing was a bit weird at times. It kind of jumped around. Like, there were some pretty big jumps,
and it would jump back too. Like, out of nowhere, it'd be like, "And Bruce is a pilot." It's
and
like,
you might not notice that as somebody that just generally listens to Maiden, but like the people who like live and bleed the timeline of Iron Maiden, like, it's like, hey, that's. You're freaking me out here. Like, this is jumping around too much.
That happened 3 months prior.
But,
sorry.
You can't please everyone.
I'll have a word with Logan about that.
About what?
His opinions.
His opinions are perfectly fine.
I know, I just want to talk to him about it.
Yeah, we wish he could be here to chat, but then this video would be an hour and a half long, so maybe it's for the best.
Yes, I think it is time.
To end. Yeah, well, obviously, we've yapped and yapped, so if you've made it this far, let us know your thoughts below. Like, did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was just okay? What was your favorite parts? Did you care for the fan interviews?
What did you think of Scotty N?
I don't think anybody thought a whole lot of that. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Thank you to our Patreon members for their support, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
That'll do, won't it?